Ridgely Goldsboro, the webinar has started.
It surely has. And Hubert Lee, I just want to show you something, okay? See, now this is a mighty fine drink. But if you'll notice, all of these cubes right here,
I
they're
see.
made of metal.
I
So what
see.
you do, you take the metal cubes and they put them in the freezer, and then they freeze and they don't dilute your drink while you're having your drink, but they keep everything cold. So I just want to let everybody know that there are ways of making Mind Types After Dark even better with modern technology. You can AI it, you can do whatever you want and end up in a better space.
That's cool. Now, that's if you're sipping your whiskey. If you chug your whiskey the way we do it down here, the cubes don't have a chance to melt.
Yeah,
Uh,
just saying, you just never know, right?
I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding, folks. Okay,
Dr.
so
Gene
welcome.
says granite cubes are amazing. The only way to
Oh,
sip bourbon. What? All
there you
right.
go. We know Dr. Jean knows her bourbon.
Well,
We do know that.
game on, man. Game on is all I can say. Anybody else got some suggestions around here? All right, weigh in,
All right,
say hi
so
from wherever you're calling in from. It's all good.
it is Mind Types After Dark. So we will talk about
So,
Mind Types.
so Dr. Gene, even 10 years in Kentucky, and our new buddy, and you'll hear a lot more from this after September, Dr. Tony Feck, major dentist, runs Sunrise Dental Solutions. We're doing a major deal with him in just a couple of months. He has an entire shrine to all bourbons in his house. I was there a few weeks ago in Naples, Florida. He's a very well-to-do individual. And so he had the Pappy Van Winkle one, two, three, four, and then others that were better than Pappy. Just saying. I
There
have
you
not
go.
tried any of them, so I don't know, Gene. But one time we're just gonna have to get together and have maybe a little bourbon tasting because
Nice.
it's next after dark, right?
Exactly. So for all these, so all the for all the thoughtful fellow Americans out there that want to give a regionally significant gift to somebody, especially overseas, right? There's nothing more distinctive than bringing a bottle of Kentucky bourbon, or, and Ridgely, you'll appreciate that, New York or New England maple syrup. Highly valued products in the whole world, especially if you do what Ridgely does and combine the two.
Exactly. So as because it's Mind Types After Dark, let me just share with you that I have a friend of mine, CEO of a big company up in Quebec. And what he does, he has as a side business a little maple syrup farm in Canada, and they make these maple syrups. And he taught me how to do this. So this is the formula for making amazing maple syrup bourbon. Okay, so here you go. This is what you do. You take the maple syrup. So he would ship me down, smuggle, excuse me, in a few of these cans of his perfectly distilled or whatever they call it. They take it right out of the tree, maple syrup. And you would say, okay, warm the maple syrup. The first thing you do is you warm the maple syrup, right? Then what you do is you take the bourbon and you take out of the bourbon bottle about a third of the bottle. You take a funnel, you pour in the warmed maple syrup into the bottle of the bourbon. Then you recork it, tape it with duct tape so that it can't do anything, turn it upside down for 6 months, and then you have
Awesome.
amazing maple syrup bourbon. And I did that, and I made special labels. I named them after my grandfather, Doc Ridgely, and we called it Doc Ridgely's Bourbon. And I made those as gifts to my sons-in-law and the people that I cared about. And it has been a hit ever since. And you know
Nice.
what? I'd forgotten that I'd done that until tonight. I need to do that again this year, man. I mean, I
There
got
you go.
friends. We know
There you
people,
go.
right?
Yes. All right. Enough of the drinking talk. Let's get down to mind types. So, folks, if anybody on this call has not had a mind types interview with Ridgely, you have to step up, raise your hand, and have Ridgely find out what your mind type is. Now, I know we have Peyton on Ridgely, and I know we're going to do some marketing with him, but I promised the good folks through email that we will give mind types its due. So I hope you have your props. You have your mind types cards. I'd like to go through the characters with
You keep
you.
talking, I'll get them.
There you go. Okay, cool. So just to shout out a couple of people here that let's see, are willing to raise their hands or not. So I encourage you, you don't have to be prepared for it at all. You don't have to know what a mind type is, or even, if you've forgotten what you think you are, or if you know what your primary one is and you want Richard to discover your secondary or tertiary, please do. We
And
have
we can
Wind,
also just talk about mind types too. We can also have a conversation
of
about
course,
what they are, what they represent, and so on. So,
for sure. So we've got two hands raised. Wendy was first, and Dr. Jean doesn't know her secondary, so we can do that. But let's settle down, folks, and go with Ridgely through the mind types, why they're most important in marketing today. And Ridgely, before you do that, though, can I give my 60-second rant?
of course.
All right. All right. So, folks, we have been concentrating on the use of AI in your marketing messaging lately. Okay. And I have spent, as Ridgely has, the last year basically super duper immersed in the world of AI and what you can do. Okay. So, folks, the bottom line is this. As AI gets easier and easier and does more hoops and tricks and everything else, everybody in the business keeps forgetting how important it is, and this may sound paradoxical, Richly, to make AI, artificial intelligence, more and more human-related intelligence. Okay? And what's the answer? The answer lies in what Ridgely and I do. We're teaching AI to learn the basics of the mind types and the partner attraction formula to actually humanize AI, resulting in authentic, human-centered, emotional messaging that gets knocked out for you and your business at lightning speed because of AI, right? And so I don't know, Ridgely, if anybody else is out there doing it because they're all caught up in the bells and whistles and forgetting to make AI more human.
Well, so I'm going to say that there is a substantial contingent that is doing that, but there's a much greater that is not doing that, right? So there's a lot of people who are caught up in the, oh, wow, it's so easy, watch this. Oh, wow, it's so easy, watch this, as opposed to how do I take this and make it part of who I am, what I do, the repertoire, the work that we put out, so that authenticity comes through. And we've been talking about authenticity as being the new currency literally for a couple of years. Does everybody get that because of AI, authenticity is an even greater currency than it has ever been? And therefore, our ability as marketers and as communicators to bring out that authenticity is way more important even than it was a couple of years ago when we were saying that it was the most important thing because of social media, because of all the barrage of everything that comes at everybody every day. It's more important than ever to bring out that authenticity in what you do. And AI gets you a little bit there, and then it stops. And you have to bring in yourself. You have to bring in you. And one of the things we're going to do tonight, we're going to work with our very good friend Peyton to help him from scratch, from zero, to help create a persona of who he is because he wants to go do something different with his life than what he's doing right at this very moment. And I love that because that's pure authenticity from start. Now, where does it all start? Of course, knowing your mind type is part of it. So I am going to bring up Wendy here, and we're going to have a conversation about mind types and what that means. And so if you've never seen this before, I've had several people in the last couple of days, I didn't tell you about this, Hubert, ask me, what are the questions that you ask to help figure out someone's mind type? Well,
That's
hey,
awesome.
Tech, it's not that easy, okay? It's not like you ask a couple of questions. There's a whole training module. There's a whole thing that goes along with figuring out someone's mind type. But we're going to demonstrate that right now and go through the process. And Wendy, welcome aboard. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hi,
I'm
Wendy.
shocked. Hi. I put my hand down when you said cards because I said I don't have cards. So I put my hand down. Then you said you don't have to be prepared. So here I am.
No, you
I
do.
raised it
Yes,
again.
because Ridgely has the cards and he'll bring you through and get you up to speed and everything else.
Yeah, and so there's many ways of doing this, of helping someone to figure out what is their authentic self. Where do you come from? Why do you do what you do? Why do you think the way you think? And all of that. And I want to do it a little bit differently with your permission, Wendy. Is that cool?
That is so cool. I'm game.
So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through the process first, and then I will explain for our mastermind members second what happened. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier on you, by the way. So this makes it
Thank God.
easier for you. So what I want you to do is tell me a story about something that happened to you with another person. What do you do in your work stuff? Tell me your work stuff. What do you do normally? Do you work? Are you not working? What do you do?
Well, I'm actually transitioning, so this is interesting. I just sold the majority of my business 2 years ago. So the last 2 years I've been in AI, just really,
Nice.
and I just got a little certification.
Good.
So
Great.
I know what I'm trying to do, but not really. I feel like I'm just playing to see what I like,
Nice.
and
And you
that's
know
where I'm
what?
headed.
And where AI is, I think that's fabulous.
Yeah.
So tell us a story about something that happened to you at work, even in your old business.
Okay.
A specific interaction you had with somebody that made you feel successful or really good.
Like recent or
Doesn't matter.
anything
In the last 10
Oh.
years.
that made me feel successful. Wow.
Everybody pay attention to the pause. Keep going.
Thank you. I will say that it was a situation where someone was trying to purchase a home. I had an insurance agency I still do have it, but 23 or 4 years now.
Mhm.
And this was a newly divorced woman, elderly, in her 60s, buying a home and not understanding the process. And she was kind of being pushed into, I hate bullies, so this is where this comes from, I'm sure. They tried to get her at closing to purchase flood insurance. But
Mm.
what she didn't understand is when you do that, it's a forever annual cost. So it doubles your insurance premiums. And I knew she had no clue. And she had already put $1,500 down for earnest money for the home. She did back out of it. I felt really good about it because she ended up probably 6 months later purchasing another home, which I insured, but definitely not in a place where she would have been overextending herself. And
Nice.
yeah, so I
Lovely.
think that is probably the one that popped up for some reason. Yeah.
Perfect. And thank you. Wonderful on your part. What about that made you feel successful or good?
Like I said, I have this weird bully thing. I don't like bullies. And I felt like that's what was happening. And I've never done that before. Maybe that's really why it popped up. My entire career, I don't care what you're buying, whether I like it or not. It's not my place. I'm just there to insure it and provide you with what you need for your situation, which I can't even imagine, what that might be, what people's goals are or whatever. So with this one, I just felt like, maybe a little motherly, like if that was my
Sure.
mom,
That's
I would
good.
hope somebody would step in and help her because she
Yeah.
was about to walk into something that would have been a financial mess for her.
Yeah. And tell me why that was important to you.
Gosh, that is so hard. Why? It's the only time I've ever done that, actually, because I that's not my place to do that. Why was that important to me? Because I knew she didn't understand what she was doing. And I knew that she was going to be hurt by it. And to this day, she's in the home that she ended up purchasing. And I think she would have lost the other, especially with the economy we're in now. This is an elderly woman who doesn't have a whole lot. And anyway, there's more to it than that backstory, but probably
Perfect.
that. It was very clear to me that she really didn't understand. And I needed her to understand, look, you can buy this house, but I just want you to understand this is what you're looking at. So it was hard for her to give up $1,500 when that deal fell through. And I
Mhm.
remember the mortgage broker calling me and asking me, well, where are the closing documents? I said, well, I don't know. And I did know because I'd talked to her, but here it's not my place to be telling him anything of the conversation I had with my client. So I said, well, until I get an okay from her, I cannot issue that policy for closing. And I left it at that. I did not have it. And I didn't, appreciate how they did that with her. It was very deceptive, pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Love that. All right, thank you. So now forget about work.
Okay.
And by the way,
Thank you.
all of you who are playing with me, who knew what we're doing, whatever, you can put your choices into the chat. Wendy, do not look at the chat, please. Just
I don't even have it on here because I won't be in
perfect.
the
Just
moment
leave
if
it
I
off.
do.
Leave it
Yeah.
off.
Okay.
If y'all know who you are, I know who you are too. You can put your choices in there. I think at this point where we are, unclear. Just saying, everybody. So Ridgely wouldn't tell you otherwise. So forget about work.
Good.
Tell us about a second story, something that happened to you that was unrelated to work. Could be friends, family, relationships, a health, a hobby, a fun thing, an adventure, anything you want, except that it's, again, the same situation, a specific interaction that you had with someone outside work that made you feel successful or really good.
Oh my gosh. It's the same bully story. It really is.
Please tell us.
Okay. So I moved into a new neighborhood and there were some problems with closing on the home we were purchasing. So I needed a letter to be able to close on the home. So I went to the president of the homeowners association because that was the only person that they would accept the letter from, whether it was, I don't remember if it was the mortgage underwriter, whoever it was. And I remember going up there and he was very flippant. Well, we only meet once a month. This is a small community, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And so without knowing what I was stepping into, I said, look, I don't know anything about homeowners associations. This is the first time I've ever been in one. And if there's anything I can help you administratively, I can help you. If it's a time issue. Well, interestingly enough, fast forward a few weeks later, I get what I want, and then I get appointed to the board. I won't even go into details. That's just, he asked me, they were short a person, they needed another person. And granted, I've never been on a homeowners board. How do I explain that without it being too long-winded? He was doing some wrong things that I was not aware of. And I'm brand new to this neighborhood and this is not my place. This is not my arena of knowledge. I did do some homework, but I knew what our obligation to the community was. And so what happened is I ended up, and this took about a year and a half. He got unanimously voted off the board. And I blew up the homeowner. We don't have a homeowners association anymore. So
And what
yeah,
about that made you feel successful?
because he was scaring elderly people. No one was at peace. He was bullying people using trash cans. And that, like I said, it was the most ridiculous situation I think I've ever, to this day, when I think about it, I can't believe I even got involved. But there was a point in time where he threatened me in a
Mhm.
sense and said I didn't need to know certain information. I said, well, you're asking me to sign off to foreclose on someone. Yeah, I do need to see this file because I'm not doing that. So it was like a really weird,
Mhm.
very contentious, and I don't like that. I don't like confrontation, but I'm not afraid of it if I have to. And I just felt like I
Yeah.
was in a position where I kind of had to.
And winning in that sense or exposing that situation, why was that important to you?
We have peace in the neighborhood. Everybody's happy. It just really I mean, there was a lawsuit. I didn't even know they were being sued. So it's really complicated. They were being sued, a class action. I didn't even know. And I got involved in something that I had no clue what was going on. And then when I saw what they were doing, namely the president, it was wrong. It was just wrong.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Excellent. All right, all you people that think you know what you know, weigh
uh,
in the chat. Where do we think that Wendy weighs in as her primary mind type? And don't be a chicken. Take a chance. What are you doing? All right. So, Wendy, let me ask you a question. Is it more important to you to jump in and make a difference however you possibly can, or to look at a situation, take all of it in, see where the relationships and the bonds are, and then from that perspective, do what you can to help?
The second one, definitely not. I'm more of the middle of the pack kind of person. I'm not saying I can't be a leader. I kind of felt like I was pushed into that role sometimes, but that's not where I like to be. I like to encourage people, and I like to do the right thing. I mean, seriously, peace, we should all live in peace and be happy. So I am not, definitely not ever going to plot me in a place where I am going to just like what I'm doing here is ridiculous, because this is not really what I like either, but here I am.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's not your comfort zone at all.
Right.
And,
So,
and I'm about to tell you why, so that's okay.
okay, good. Because I'm about to do webinars and I'm just going to get over myself. I mean, so that's
Well,
good.
there's ways of getting over yourself. We can help you with that too. So,
Okay, good. Yeah.
so when somebody violates your trust, is that annoying or like a sucker punch in the stomach?
Probably when I was younger, it was a sucker punch. Now it's like, oh, thank God I can leave that person. So to me, I just move on. It's like, I don't want them in my ecosystem if they're that type of person.
Right. You're done
And
with
I'm
them forever. You're
right.
done. That's it. They're
Well,
out.
maybe not forever. It depends if they come back with some humility and apology. It had there, because there's always a circumstance. You never know why people do
sure.
what they do. So I'm open to that, but I think I'm a 3 strikes you're out person. If you do it to me the third time, that's it. I kind of have
Well,
lived like that.
and
Yeah.
do you feel successful when you build relationships that are based in trust?
Oh gosh. Yes, that's the most important. Yeah. Hard, but important.
Right.
Most important.
All right,
Yeah.
people. I know you're like weighing in now because it's easy. Okay, whatever.
Right. But also, actually, don't forget, for Wendy's benefit and other people that don't know the mind types, to actually go through the mind types.
But
If you want,
we will momentarily. But so, Wendy, in our world of mind types, and the thing that distinguishes mind types from all of the other personality typing systems is that it's super easy to understand. So Hubert and I, who built this system, have had a challenge, which is if it's too hard to understand yourself, in other words, it requires an interpreter, a coach, a thing, or whatever, then we want to do something a little bit different. And so we built it literally with simple characters, and we make it easy, but it's so effective because you'll get it immediately. And I'm about to kind of have some fun here. So in your world, you are a connector. Connectors are people for whom trust is everything.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not a little bit. It's everything.
It is everything. For me, it is.
Exactly. I'm married to a connectors. I know exactly right. I can't even go out to dinner if we're on a date night and put down a business credit card. She'd be like, no, it's a personal date. We're not even though she works for the company, this is not a business. Well, can't we talk about business for 2 minutes? No, right?
Okay, I would not go that far, so maybe I have something else there.
Just saying,
I
just
would
saying.
definitely take out the business credit card.
I'm
talk
just
for 2
saying, but
minutes.
you get what I'm saying, that
Yes,
whole
I
idea
do.
of trust
Yes.
is absolutely everything to you.
Spot on.
And as a result,
I should write.
so trust is your superpower
Oh, good.
because you don't want to do business with anybody who violates your trust. You don't want to be involved with anybody who violates your trust. You don't want to have anything to do with somebody who's not trustworthy, right? It's your whole world. It's like,
True.
forget about it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, here's the thing. The kryptonite of the connector is also interesting because the connector will do the extra and then the extra and then the extra
Oh
and
gosh.
the extra and a little
Yeah.
bit more to demonstrate that they're trustworthy. Sound familiar?
People pleaser, yes, but I think I'm maturing because well, it's definitely been
Well, let me help you.
Kryptonite, yes, has definitely held me back in a lot of ways because it used to hurt my feelings and I just wouldn't express it, which was basically boundaries, boundaries and that
Well,
sort of
there's a
thing.
better way to do it. There's a better way to understand it. Here's the
Yes.
thing. You are trustworthy. And
Yeah.
based on everything we've been through right now, if I was going on a trip to Europe, I would say, Wendy, here are my keys. Here are my cars. Here are my toys.
I get that a lot.
Have a good time.
That's a,
I'm
yeah, I
out,
get that a lot.
right? Because I would know there's no
Yeah.
way I'm coming back to my house without it being totally taken care of because
Right.
Wendy was in charge,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Because
Exactly.
it's how you live your life. It's who you are. It's what you believe. It's never going to change. So here's the part about the extra, extra, extra. It's actually, yeah, I know. Sometimes it gets emotional, and that's
It
cool.
is. That is
Well,
cool. That's very cool. It's
thank
so
you.
spot on. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the extra, extra, extra piece is actually not about everybody else. It's actually about you. Because the first extra takes you from being ordinary to extraordinary. All of us can aspire to that, hopefully, on an ongoing basis. But all the other extras, that extra, extra, extra thing, they just make you nice. Oh, Wendy's so nice. She's all doing the extra, extra. People take advantage of that. You know that you're trustworthy. You know you are. It's at the core of your life. So when you do that first extra, you're demonstrating that. The
Yeah.
second, third, fourth, it's just about you. And I'm telling you, the kryptonite of the connector is waste. The connectors waste a lot of time and energy demonstrating to
Yes.
others that
Yeah.
they're trustworthy when they already are. So,
Yeah.
so if you can create for yourself, and I've got another really cool thing about connectors. If you can kind of just trigger for yourself that thing of, oh, I'm doing that extra, extra thing. Oh, I already did that. I'm good. Stop. Then you can gain back all that time and effort for your own life to go after your own goals, your own dreams, your own family, etc., and have that back for yourself. And that's the benefit of understanding the kryptonite of the connector.
That's beautiful. That's so perfect because that's exactly where I'm at and realizing the overcommitment of saying yes to, and I just need to learn to say no is what I've been practicing this year is can't do that. Nope, this is my goal. This is what I'm doing. That doesn't align with what, so I guess alignment. I think that's where I'm at. And I think life gets in the way when you're running businesses. You're not really seeing yourself, you know?
Really? I
Yeah.
wouldn't know since I've been doing that
Yeah.
since I've
So,
been one job
yeah,
in my entire life for 30 days.
right,
But
right. Yeah.
so the overcommitment thing can sneak in anywhere, can sneak in for those people who are
Yes.
givers, which I'll talk about in just a minute.
Okay.
But in your case, it's about that demonstration thing. And
I think
you have a very
that is so great. That just unlocked something else. I've been working on it this year, really, really trying to figure out why do I keep attracting the wrong people? And so I've said no to things that are very uncomfortable because I'm not used to doing that. So I'm going against my habits here. So it's new.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the trust thing is so huge. So here's the other thing that you have that's a huge asset. Connectors have a spidey sense.
Yes.
So my wife, who's my love and my girl, and a lot of people on the mastermind know Kathy. She's great. It used to be we would go to conferences together, and she would say, "I have a funny feeling about so and so," or "I have a funny feeling about such and such," and I would override it. Oh no, there's no problem there. Da, da, da. She was 100% right all the time. Every time she had a spidey sense, funny feeling about somebody, it never worked out. Never. So now, after many years, if she says, I have a funny feeling about so and so, I'm out. I don't even have to overthink it anymore. I'm done. That person is out of our ecosystem because she is always right. And connectors are the only ones of the 7 mind types that have that crazy radar about trustworthiness that the rest of us don't have. So you have that unique ability. So trust that as you're building relationships, as you're moving forward, trust that, and it will really, really serve you.
This is perfect timing. Thank you for that. Because I do have that, but I just don't verbalize it.
Yeah, gotta trust
Never
it. You
verbalize
gotta
it. I
trust it.
don't.
You gotta
Yeah.
trust it.
Yeah.
All right, Wendy, thanks so much for playing with us.
Thank you
Obviously,
very
if you want to
much.
talk
That
to
was
me
Wendy.
about joining our mastermind, then Hubert will pop the link into the chat. It is super cool. You'll see us do some crazy stuff here in a minute. But thank you for playing, because for sure, as a connector, it is so important to understand this stuff. It'll change your world forever. To get, this is who I am. To communicate that to your loved ones. Wait, you don't understand. I'm a connector. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, it hurts me personally. I feel pain. It's not okay. Whereas with Ridgely, I'm a problem solver. Problem solvers are much more not emotionally attached. Somebody says they're not going to do, they do something and they don't do it. Happens to me every freaking day as a CEO, man. I'm like, really? Whatever. But my wife, if I say I'm going to do, she remembers the things that I haven't done since 1942. And I wasn't even born then. Just saying, right? So anyway, thanks so much for playing with us.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you had a chance to experience that. And
Thank you.
hopefully there's more to come.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Oh,
Wendy. All right, so originally we have Araceli, but before you bring her on, can you run through the 7 mind types so that everybody has a quick review of them?
yeah, for sure. All right. So the 7 mind types, again, all of the mind types have a superpower and a kryptonite. And if you pay close attention, the superpower is almost always the opposite of the kryptonite. So first you have the giver. The giver is all about making a difference, making an impact, contributing in some way. And their superpower is causes. They're all about making causes, being a part of a cause, whether that's bringing coffee in the morning to the team or changing the nature of a major world problem. What is their kryptonite? Overcommitment. They say yes to way too many things. I heard that from Wendy. I would suggest that, Wendy, probably your secondary mind type is the giver, actually, from what I heard. All right. Number 2, you have the connector. That was what we just heard of from Wendy. Her whole thing is trust. That is the superpower of the connector. All about trust. Trust is everything. And as we discussed, sometimes they do the extra. So waste becomes the kryptonite of the connector. Number 3, the problem solver. The problem solver is all about making sense out of things, creating, clarifying, simplifying things, and creating solutions. That is the superpower of the connector. They're really, really good at it, and they do it very, very fast. When they don't have enough data, the problem solver goes into paralysis. That is the kryptonite of the problem solver. They must have enough data or their brain goes wah, 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 and shuts down. All right, then we have the innovator. The innovator is all about finding a better way to do things. What about this? What about that? What if we try this? What about this other thing? Superpowers improvements. They're really good at finding better ways to do things. What is the kryptonite? Change for change's sake. They're always interested in the shiny penny. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what it does to morale. I can find a better way to do it. And therefore they, in that way, have a kryptonite that is very, very real. Number 5, the perfectionist. The perfectionist is all about finding the right way to do things. If you do A, then B, then C, then D. E is predictable. They love systems. Systems is the superpower of the perfectionist. They're great at creating them, running them. What is the kryptonite? Rigidity. They get very, very stuck in, if it's not my way, it's the highway. And there's always many ways of doing almost anything. Then we have the rebel. The rebel is mind type number 6. They're all about being different, thinking outside the box. And of course, challenging things. Challenge is the superpower of the rebel. They challenge the norm, the vanilla, the state of the art, and of course, the status quo. The problem with that is when you do that to everybody, they push you away. And the kryptonite of the rebel is isolation. They feel pushed away by people and they isolate, or they feel misunderstood and they isolate themselves. And finally, we have the master. The master is the person that wants to take everything to another level. They want to just figure it out and go deeper. Depth is the superpower of the master. Masters are super, super smart. They're the most intellectually capable of all of the mind types. And because of that, their kryptonite is complexity. They have a tendency to overcomplicate things for the rest of us. They're the kind of people you want to say to them, can you just give me the short version of what you just said? Because it was just way over my head, way down a rabbit hole. That's the master. So those are the 7 different mind types. And understanding what is your primary mind type and your primary superpower and kryptonite, your secondary and your tertiary is really, really important. It's why you do what you do, how it shows up for you, and what happens in your environment. Really, really powerful, very simple system of understanding who you are. Obviously, all the people that have been with us for a long time understand this and never get tired of it because it always sinks another level deeper. Hubert, good enough for you?
Yes, that's awesome. And of course, that's just where we start. We have a whole system of leveraging your mind type and using it to authentically express who you are and why, you know, the person you're speaking to should care and everything else. So, but that's the basis of the whole system right there. Richard, do you mind bringing Araceli on and we'll determine her mind type?
For sure. Let's do this.
All righty.
We'll play a little bit with brother.
Can you bring her on, Araceli?
She's heading our way right now.
Thank you.
All right. So, hello, Araceli.
Hi,
Hello, Araceli. Good to see you.
thank you for having me. This is amazing.
Oh,
I'm
great.
so glad. And where are you calling it? Where are you chiming in from?
I live on the Mendocino coast in Northern California.
Beautiful. Okay. So, just to show everybody how we do this, there are multiple ways of figuring out someone's mind type. So, we might do it a little bit differently. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
And where are you from originally?
I was born in Mexico.
Okay, so would you rather we do this in English or Spanish? Porque para mí
The
es
way
igual.
is fine
Estamos en
with me.
español.
My mind can understand both now.
Para mí es lo mismo, lo hacemos en español, lo hacemos en inglés, no importa.
Como usted
Wait a minute.
quiera.
I'm sorry. Maybe for everybody else, it might be better if we do English, if that's cool.
Right.
Right?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so I was very blessed. I grew up in Spain.
Oh, perfect.
And so I have been able to do this work in most of Latin America. I've been in most of the Latin American countries doing this kind of work. So both in English and Spanish.
Fantastic.
But for this, we'll do it in English just because.
All
So,
right.
so I already have a sense. And when you begin to work in the mind types, you see people, you see how they show up. You see everything about them. You see the background. You see how they work. And everything you do tells me something about who you are and what you stand for. Even the way your face shows up. And it's almost magical once you get into this and get good at it. So let me ask you a question. If somebody asks you for a favor, is it hard for you to say no?
Yes.
Yeah, and you find yourself kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy right now, but I got so many things on the plate, and they ask you, and you're thinking in that moment, there's no way that I can, but out of your mouth comes, oh, okay, I can help, right?
Yes, totally.
All right, you people can weigh in on the chat already, right? If you've been with me for a while, you know. So I have this innate sense. So do you feel great when you're able to make a difference in the lives of others?
I do.
Yeah. And isn't it like one of those things that just kind of lights you up, that you're like, hey, I just want to contribute however I can. And and when it does that, it's that thing that fuels you. And yet the challenge is that, oh man, you just say yes to so many things. You're like, what?
Totally. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, so the good news is we have the ways that we can help with that, because the world needs as many people that have your mind type as we can, because you are a giver. You love to make a difference, to have an impact, to touch people in whatever way you possibly can, whether that's with your work, your family, cooking, whatever it may be, whatever that may be. The Latin space for family is much greater than the American space. And that desire to just jump in and help is what drives you and fills you with joy and fulfillment, right? Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
So you're always helping the one cause or another, whatever the cause is, jumping into this cause or jumping into that cause or whatever that thing is. And the challenge is you end up with too many things on your plate, right? And then, oh man, I can't believe
I don't have time for that.
I
I
just
don't have time for anything else, but yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Right? So I want to give you a gift, a tool. So
Okay.
the challenge with being a giver is that, of course, you want to make a difference. Of course, you want to contribute to others. And that's so beautiful. My mentor is a giver. And he does this at a very, very high level. It'll never change his personality. It's so wonderful. It's great. But if you say yes to a small request, it sabotages your ability to then use that same energy for a much bigger thing where you could make a bigger difference, right? The greater good. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what the giver needs is the ability to step back for a second and say, is this the best use of my time? Or is this the best use of my time? But in the moment when somebody asks you for that favor, because of how you feel, it's difficult because you want to say yes, but your mind is saying no, right? You know what I'm saying, right? You know exactly that feeling that you have, right? So here's the way that we play that game in a wonderful way that serves everybody. You don't say yes and you don't say no. You say the following: I'm not, 5 words, I'm not available right now. I'm not available
Okay.
now. Can you get back to me a little later? Can we touch base at lunch? Can we talk at the end of the day? Can I call you tomorrow? I'm not available right now. Because then what happens is it gives you the chance to look at that request and say, is this a small thing that doesn't do a lot? Or is this a big thing that makes a big difference? And you get two benefits from that. Number one, a lot of times the people that ask you for something, they'll go, well, I'll just go do it myself. And they'll go figure it out and not take advantage of you. And the second thing is it gives you a chance to really look at, is that the very best use of my time, or is that just a small use of my time? And then you have the chance to say, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm not available for that because da 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 da. Discernment of those two things is what makes the giver a much more powerful person when you don't just automatically say yes. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So your new
Hard
friend,
to do, but yeah, it makes sense.
but here's the thing is, I'm not available right now. No puedo en este momento, pero háblame en 2 horas. Talk to me in
Okay.
2 hours.
Right.
No puedo en este momento, pero can we talk at the end of the day? No puedo
Right.
en este momento, pero, right? You're always saying maybe. You're not saying no. You're just saying I can't right now.
Hmm.
And then it gives you that space to really look at that situation and say, is this the very best use of my time? Am I contributing to the greatest possible good or not?
But how would I know what's the best? I mean, if this is a cause that is going to make the biggest difference. I mean, is that a matter of me getting to know myself and figuring that part? I know it's up to me, but
Well, sometimes it's really easy, right? When somebody comes to you with a silly request because they know you're likely to say yes, you go, I'm not available right now. And then they go and do it themselves. They just think, oh, I can just ask Araceli because Araceli is going to say yes no matter what. So we're right. That's the part you want. When it's a little bit more subtle, of course you have to be the best judge of that. Only you can do that. But you know how to do that because you're always thinking about how to help others. That's what you do all day long. So to be able to judge between the two, you just need a little bit of space. I'm not available right now. No puedo en este momento, pero
luego, okay.
luego,
Hablemos
luego,
luego.
right? A
Good.
little bit of Spanish thrown in there for everybody. It's all good. I can do the same thing in French. It's all. Araceli, thanks so much for joining. I really
Thank you for
Thank you so
thank
much,
you. Thank you
Araceli.
for your
course.
time. It's great.
Okay.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
guys.
All right.
All right, originally. Now, before we move on, because I know we got some marketing to do here, can you please, because this is always a popular question, can you please break down the percentages of the population that are in each of the 7 mind types, please?
Yeah. So fortunately, we're so blessed that givers and connectors make up half of the world. People who are emotionally based, who really care about others, which is wonderful. We need many givers and connectors. So in any given organization, you're going to see 20 to 30% are givers, 20 to 30% are connectors. After that, about 15% are problem solvers, which is a good thing. 10% are innovators and perfectionists. So we need some of those, but not too many. Then we get down to the rabble, only 5%. And finally, the masters are super brainiacs. They're really, really smart people. They're rare. About 2% of the world are masters. I see on this call some of the masters that are on. We have Bridget, we have Dorina on this call, and of course Hubert yourself as well. So masters are rare, a lot more rare than others.
Thanks for breaking that down. Now, I also want to emphasize the concept that we have a primary mind type, we have a secondary, and we have a tertiary. And oftentimes, the bonding happens at the secondary. Originally, as he said, he's a problem solver. I'm a master. But for both of us, very strongly, our secondary mind type is giver. And that's why we do projects like this, Mind Types After Dark and so forth. And that's where Ridgely and I really, have a united front, and when we're just joined at the hip in terms of our secondary mind type.
Exactly. Otherwise, I might not like you. It's all good. All right, cool. So let's jump into some AI stuff here. And we have Peyton with us. Very, very cool. He is looking to do some new stuff with his career. I'm going to promote him up here to panelist to join us, and we're going to have some fun. And Hubert, I definitely want you to do your best, tap into some of our tools while we're talking and figure out what we can do here, because Peyton's been in marketing for a long time, relatively speaking, 5 years. And Peyton, if you can, turn on your camera, Rofi, when you join us, so we can see you. And he's looking to take his game to the next level. So we had a conversation a little earlier today. Peyton, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, but we can't see you. We hear you.
I wonder why. It says it's on my end.
I don't know. Lens cap, Dorina says. Oh, there you go. Now we see you.
Hey, Peyton.
There we go.
Kind of in the dark, but okay, man. Turn the light.
Peyton, Ridgely, it's all right. Peyton got the memo.
Dark, isn't it?
Mind Types After Dark, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So Peyton's been in marketing for about 5 years, you said, bro?
Yep.
And been doing some very cool stuff, is involved with one of the companies that I am blessed to being a part of, BH Tequila. By the way, if you have not checked out BH Tequila, Peyton dropped that in the chat. Everybody should go check out BH Tequila. It is super cool and crazy and good. And So tell us what you're looking to do.
Yeah, so I started an agency when I was 20 years old. I'm 25 now, and I've been doing a lot of agency work, working with a lot of clients and things like that. I started off doing music marketing for an artist. That's kind of how I got into the whole gig. And then from there, it kind of snowballed, and I've been working with clients in many different niches and just kind of building my network, building my portfolio and things like that. And now I'm wanting to transition more into like a role at a bigger company instead of, having all the weight on my shoulders of doing my own company, and having to hire a team and things like that. I think me as a person, I think I'd be better with the security and things like that of working with a bigger company instead of on my own.
Well, and let's break this down a little bit. So for everybody that's listening, Peyton has not only been doing his own thing, but he's been successfully doing his own thing, paying his bills, putting together a portfolio, doing some very cool stuff for some very cool people. So it's not as though he's starting from zero. He spent 5 years doing cool stuff, doing well. And now he expressed to me earlier, he asked me to help with a little bit of mentorship, which, as you all know, I gladly do for anybody when I have time, because I believe in it, because I would be nowhere without mentors. Saying, hey, I would like to go from where I am today to potentially working in a bigger organization, learning that game, learning the teamwork game, learning the game of participating with others, and then maybe going back out into the entrepreneurial world and doing my own thing. So a very unique situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Hubert, so we're talking about being able to help Peyton. So what do you think are the things that you need the most at this moment?
I think what I need the most at the moment is to learn more about working with a team, because everything I've been doing is kind of by myself, and there's other areas that I could improve on as far as, because like when you're running your own business, you're the marketer, the finance, you're everything, so I think I wanted to take a step back and kind of learn all of those routes before I'm just, because like right now I'm good at creative advertising, marketing, content, and things like that, but I think everyone in here knows that there's a quadrillion other things that go into business besides that.
For sure. Everybody on this call almost all are owners of their own business or former owners, or figuring themselves out and trying to say, hey man, what do we do? How does this work, et cetera? And you're right, you wear many, many hats until you end up growing a company that has a lot of people who wear hats for you, which is necessary. So
And Peyton, I'm sorry, one quick question I have for Peyton. Peyton, what's your sense as to what your mind type is?
I'm not too sure, honestly, as of right now. Ridgely, do you have an idea?
What are some that come to mind? And Ridgely, what do you think of Peyton?
Ridgely, you go first.
You first. No, you first, bro.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I would say I think giver is one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think connector could be one. But this is my first time listening to all the mind types, so I haven't had a good chance to really sit down and think about it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you often find yourself asking, well, what if we did this and what if we tried that?
Yes.
Is it something you wake up in the middle of the night going, but what if this, or what if that?
No.
Okay, interesting. So it could be secondary. I'm just playing around.
Yeah.
All right. We'll circle back on that. So
Okay.
giver connector on the one hand, but that concept of finding a better way to do things, I think, is what you're talking about right now. It just may be coming from a very emotional place. Because in other words, there's an element of you, what I've experienced, because I've seen some of your work, that is very innovative. You're finding better ways to do things. And that's an innovator concept. But the innovator comes as a secondary mind type because of wanting to connect with people or make a difference in the world. But you definitely have some innovator elements for sure, because I've seen some of the stuff you do and it's really super cool.
I appreciate it.
And the reason why I ask is this. So like Ridgely, I've been around the block a couple of hundred times, but unlike Ridgely, I've spent a major portion of my life in corporate and in big business. And I've also done agency work. I've owned agencies. I've worked at agencies. Ridgely and I currently run an agency business, blah, 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 whatever. And the impact of my quality of life in agency work is so dependent on my mind type. Okay. Ridgely, I would have saved myself years of grief had I known that I was a master and that having a master run an agency is not exactly ideal.
No.
Meaning the work is incredible, but the amount of hours that it takes to do that incredible amount of work means that you have like 2 clients a year or some crazy thing like that, right? So you run into problems of not being able to scale because nobody can do it as good as you. And so there's all kinds of things. The answer, I didn't realize until I met Ridgely. And maybe this is the answer for you. Instead of giving up your current business straight up 100% right now, going into partnership, even if you retain a small amount of equity and have other people on the team, and everybody on the team does their thing, the results are incredible. So in the agency that Ridgely and I have, I'm the master. So Ridgely brings me in when he needs to dazzle a client or to troubleshoot something or another. And I don't get aggravated by having to do that on every single call, especially when it's not necessary. Ridgely's a problem solver. When I'm down the wrong track and I bring Ridgely in to look at something that's going on in the agency with whatever, what he does will take me days to figure out. What I do will take him years to figure out, right? And so the balance that you can achieve through having the right partnership in an agency and many other business models can be incredible. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Ridgely, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Of course, you're making me just make sure that we got to figure out Peyton's mind type before we go any further, because now I can't go anywhere without this. So fine. All right. Thanks, Kiwi. All good. People, we will get to AI. If you got to go, you got to go. But sometimes, these situations go down different curves because our objective on our mastermind is we're here to serve you. And you saw the reaction that we had from Wendy and Araceli. And that is so meaningful to us to make somebody's life different. And of course, we have all kinds of crazy AI tools, but you know what? They'll be there next week too. So before
Exactly.
Peyton, tell me a story. Something happened to you at work with another person, a specific interaction that you had with somebody that made you feel successful or really good.
I think through one of my clients of mine, we were producing a lot of content and it was getting a lot of views and we were doing very well together. She was getting sales on her courses and things like that. And this isn't like a specific one thing that made me feel successful. It was like a growth into things. And then that partnership led into her taking me to all these big, powerful events and these panels and all of these things for me to network and see other people when she didn't really have to do that. So it was a show that my work was being successful because there was no really reason for her to even take me to all these big, powerful events and things like that. But she did just because, and there was no gain for her necessarily for doing that.
Right. And so what about that made you feel successful or good?
Because I think it was like a part of growth. And that my work was like paying off and she saw that. And so she repaid me in that way, outside of financial gain.
Nice. And why is that important to you?
Because I think there's a lot more to it than financial stuff. There's connecting, there's, partnership. There's like how Hubert said, looking for partners and things like that. It was just getting out into the field around these powerful people and being in those rooms when I didn't need to be there for, it was just out of, her heart.
Nice. Love that. So everybody that's listening, if you've been on the Mind Types Mastermind for a little while, notice there's a conflictual situation happening here, right? In that what Peyton just shared with us has 2 elements. It has the emotional element and it has the words that he used in the description of it, which are far more analytical. So we're not there yet, people. So pay attention to what Peyton is saying, especially if you're trying to master how to understand somebody's mind types, because so far not clear. So for everybody's benefit. All right. So Peyton, tell us a story. It has nothing to do with work. Outside work, friends, family, party, relationship, travel, a trip, climbing a 14er, whatever you want. Something that happened to you outside work with another person, a very specific interaction. You can see like a video in your mind that made you feel successful or really good.
Well, I've told the story once today, but I'm going to tell it again. I climbed my first mountain, a 14,000 foot mountain, about 3 weeks ago or a month ago. And me and my buddy, we've been wanting to do it forever. I went out to Colorado to run a marathon, actually completed that. And then we were out there and we were like, the thought of doing a 14er got brought up, and I was like, I mean, I could probably do it if you could do it. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I could do it. So it's kind of a joke, and then it turned into something real. And then I had to fly out Tuesday, and it was Monday, so it was a really short period of time. We didn't really plan for anything. We just were like, we're gonna do it, and we drove like an hour and a half north. We didn't get off till 5 o'clock that day from work. So then we did it, and ended up being dark time. And so when we got to the trail too, which we did not prepare for because we were reading some things, but we didn't do that much research. We were holing out in our shoes. So like we were going into snow, which we did not plan for, which took on 3 hours of time and a lot of wet shoes. And then we had that mindset of like, we're not going back. There's like, we drove an hour and a half here. We're already halfway up. Like we're just not going to go back. And then we kept pushing. When we got to the top, it was dark. So we didn't even get a cool picture or anything, because it was completely dark. And then we brought a beer up there, cheersed it, and then went back down. We stayed up. It was pretty cold up there too. We only stayed up there for about 7 minutes, and it was funny too, because like how the mind works, I was pretty irritated in the moment. I had a flight in like 6 hours because it was like the next morning. At this point it was like midnight. And I had a flight at 6 a.m. I was scared I was gonna miss my flight. I was irritated with my buddy. Like we're all wet. It's just a terrible time, but at the same time, I felt very successful because I just hiked up a mountain, in the middle of the night after running a marathon.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. Congratulations, because Hubert and I have done 14ers together, and they don't give those things away. They are really hard. If you've never gone up 14,000 feet, believe me, you can't even breathe by the time you get to the top. Crazy. So what about that made you feel good?
I think it's because it's something that I've thought about doing for a really long time, maybe 2 or 3 years. Like when I kind of started finding out about, when I got into that world, like the outdoor space was like, you start small, like you go on a 5 mile hike. Oh, that's cool. And then like you start doing your research and you're like, oh, you can climb a mountain in Colorado. Oh, that's pretty cool. Then, you go travel to Colorado and you're like, well, there's a 14er, an hour and a half away. We could do that if we wanted. And that's what we did.
And oh, by the way, in case anybody's not clear, you get to the top of a 14er. It's very small at the very top, right? Just saying. Most people don't realize that they look like these giant mountains, but there is a top. And the top is very small. It's like 20 feet by 50 feet or whatever. And that's it. And if you make a mistake and you fall off the side, bad idea. Now, what about that was important to you?
I think it was setting out to do something and not looking back and just achieving it. And even though it was hard and we could have quit at the beginning once we saw the snow and how, our shoes were completely soaked 40 minutes into the hike, and it was a 7-hour hike. And it was like, well, we could turn around and go back, or we could just kind of endure it and keep moving. And I think not only from the previous of me searching it, looking it up and wanting to do it like that, I felt successful and confident in myself for doing it, but it was also the circumstances when we got there were so bad, and we kept pushing forward and we completed it, even though every bone in our body wanted to go back at the very beginning.
Been there, done that. Been there, done that. Last time Hubert and I were up on a 14er, we actually did turn back about 500 feet from the top because lightning was coming down big time.
Oh yeah.
But the guys that were coming down, they said, if you go up there now, you're not going to make it back down. You're going to get hit by lightning, and that'll be it.
Yeah, so it's not good. So
and the time before, and then not to interrupt, but the time before that, we almost summited, but then Ridgely's daughter got sick, and Ridgely and I and another guy took turns carrying her down the mountain.
Yeah, that would be my daughter, who's now a professional ballerina, as a soloist, training in London right now, going to Prague next week, right? The same chick, that whatever. So Is it more important to you, Peyton, to look at a situation, take it all in, make sense out of it, and then move forward? Or to look at a situation and go, from a creative standpoint, what could I do to this situation to tweak it?
What was the first one again?
Take a situation, bring it all in, process it, filter it through your noodle and go, wow, we could do this. Or look at it and go, well, what if we tried this thing?
So that's a tough question. Is it crazy to say like a little bit of both? Is that an option? I definitely feel like I need to process things, to make sure that like I'm not someone that can like see something, or like if I'm talking to someone or in an argument, let's say, I need to like process things, or even when I'm creating something, I want to process it and then I need to take time to put it out.
So if somebody comes to you with a problem that they have, a challenge
Hmm.
that they have, and they start telling you the story,
Hmm.
within about half of the story, do you have like 4 ideas for them?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's something that you couldn't turn it off even if you wanted to.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's like somebody starts telling you something, and you're like, well, you could just do this, this, and this, right? I mean, you could just do
Yeah.
this, right? It's like, and they don't see it, but you see it.
Right.
Yeah. And behind all of that is this deep desire to support people and help people however you can.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anybody weigh in on the chat? I'm not looking at the chat. Hubert, you're monitoring the chat alone. What do we think? Primary, secondary, pretty obvious, people. If you've been around a little bit, what do we got going on here? So in the mind types world, it took a little while to get to it because your sense of really wanting to help people is very profound. But the way you do that is by solving problems. You take people's stuff and you say, well, we could do this, or we could do that, or we could do the other, and you give them solutions to their stuff. Am I right? And you're good at it. And by the way, it comes easily for you. Somebody tells you this and this and this and this, and you're like, well, you could do this. And it's easy to do that. And behind that is a deep sense of why you do that, which is to help people, to connect with people. In other words, your innate ability gives you that processing capabilities, tick, 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 tick. And then behind that is this deep desire to either A, make a difference, or B, connect with people so you can help.
100%. And I think it goes back to how we even first met. And I think I've told the story on here, so forgive me if I'm explaining something I've already said, but that was exactly how I met mine and Ridgely's mutual connection. She owns a tequila company, and I went to her and I was like, I don't necessarily want any money right now or anything. I'm just going to make this content for you because I've followed her for 7 years and I've always wanted to connect with her. And I just went up, got my chance, and was like, I don't need money right now. I just want to make this content. And then now I'm profiting from that content and making that decision of being organic and just wanting to help in a sense, and make that connection. And now it paid off.
Which is wonderful, man. When you get that, and so from your perspective, your primary mind type is a problem solver. Secondary is either connector or giver. I'm not sure, but I'll let you figure that out for yourself. But that means that you have an innate ability to sort through things and come up with ideas and content. And you've done a fabulous job for my very dear friend Sue Hrib, who is the owner of BH Tequila, and help her out in that way. But you did it smartly. Oh, I'll invest a little on the front end and then watch what happens. And boom, it shows up for you. And now it's a wonderful thing. So as you're moving forward in your career, I think this has nothing but upsell for you on every level to be that person. Hubert, any thoughts on this?
Yes, I have big thoughts on that. So Peyton, you're young, so you
Right.
will have the opportunity to use what I'm going to say thousands of times in your life. Okay. So in any given opportunity that arises, where you're impressed by somebody and you go and make the connection and you want to join their whatever they're doing, and they obviously are impressed and they say, okay, let's talk. And they say to you, All right. So Peyton, how do you think you could help me in my organization? Okay. The answer is simple. And the answer is always this, the following. Well, you know, Ridgely, I have to tell you something about myself. At the core, I'm a problem solver. I cannot turn that off. That's just like what I'm about. So whatever situation you put me into, I am going to assess the situation, find out what the holdup is, and even before, now I'm going to complete the process, but even before I do so, I'm going to be hitting on all of these potential solutions, this one and this one and this one, and no matter where you want to send me, that's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to be a problem solver. Now further, and then you have to do some work and find out if you're a giver. You're going to also say, and another thing that's really important to me is always to be a giver. So I might have to say no sometimes, but I'm always wanting to say yes. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Now, what I'm doing here, Peyton, is I'm speaking authentically. Nobody can dispute what you're saying. And nobody can deny, wow, this young man is like speaking the truth here about himself. Like after that conversation, the people are going to be looking for a way to hook you up with something because they value you and your special skills as a problem solver and giver. That's the power of that. Ridgely, am I right on that?
100%. I would just add one tiny tweak. I would begin it by saying, I believe in making sense out of things. So rather than say, I'm a problem solver per se, I would say, I believe in making sense out of things and clarifying and simplifying things for others. And the way I go about that is, because then you're inviting somebody into that belief with you. And I've shared this story, but not in a number of years. I was on a flight before the pandemic. So because before the pandemic, I was traveling 50-60% of the time, giving speeches all over the world, and it was crazy. And I sat down next to a woman, young lady, and she was ferociously studying. It was like there was an intensity about this young lady who was crazy. And finally I said, what are you studying? I'm like too curious because she was way too intense. And she said, well, I'm going for another interview at Tesla. And I said, oh, well, that's great. That's cool. And she said, yeah, no, if I get through this interview, my final interview is with Elon Musk. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? And she went on to explain her situation. She'd been through several rounds. And I said, would you like an edge? And she said, absolutely. And oh, by the way, it turned out that she had just the year before retired from being a player on the United States women's national soccer team, the #1 team in the world. Okay. Oh, wow. So she was a baller no matter what. She was just taking her energy going somewhere else. And I helped her discover her mind type, discover that she was an innovator. And I said to her, when you go for your next interview, say it this way. I believe in finding a better way to do just about everything. And the way I go about it is this. So as a problem solver, you want to say something like that. I believe in making sense out of things and simplifying things for others. And the way I go about it is this. And then people are invited into that belief system that you have of, I believe in making sense out of things.
Now, Peyton, Ridgely just dropped on you something super, super valuable that we need to explain. Okay, so you've heard us say the phrase limbic messaging.
Okay,
Ridgely just comboed limbic messaging with your mind type and gave you a gracious way to kind of enroll people into what you believe. So let's just spend a moment here, Ridgely, and kind of tease out this like awesomeness here. Explain to us what a limbic message is and why it's like so disarmingly effective when it comes to talking about yourself, like this example right here.
Yeah, so What I promised you today, Peyton, we'll have to do next week if that's cool with you, because we're like way over time over here. But I will
Oh,
do it next week. So when you tap the limbic brain, you're tapping into the emotional space of somebody. And people make decisions based on emotion, and then they justify it with logic. So if you can tap into the limbic brain first and get somebody to basically, you're inviting them into a thought. You're saying, I believe in making sense out of things and solving issues for others. And the way I go about that is you're saying to somebody, do you believe in making sense out of things and solving things? Or if you were a connector, like Wendy, I believe in relationships based on trust. And the way I go about, if they believe in relationships based on trust, they're in already. We were talking to Araceli. I believe in doing whatever I can to help people. Oh, if you believe in that, etc. You're inviting them into a thought. So whenever you're having that enrolling conversation for yourself in an interview, a situation where you say, I want to go work for a bigger company, if you have that language dialed in, you're tapping somebody in their emotional space, man. You're way ahead of everybody else that does that. Because the moment you say, I believe in making sense out of things and creating solutions for others, and the way that I go about that, if somebody there is listening and they believe that, you're way ahead of everybody, because they're going like this. Oh, I believe that too. This guy, Peyton, he's my kind of people. We're on the same page. Let's see what else he has to say. And then they lean in, right? So when you're able to express your mind type with that level of authenticity, you're way ahead of the game over everybody else.
Right.
Making sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I do think, and this is like a broad thing, and I'm sure a lot of people or agency owners could say this too, but I think like a lot of the reasons I've built my clientele and all these connections was because of that without knowing it. Like I've always been, people just have gravitated towards me, and like I've always been able to go into a room and just make a connection, and like just people just like the snowball effect of like, oh, I have a client, we go to these events, and then all these people that I meet, they're like, not every, it's almost like every event and every client I've been with has garnished me a new connection, and like all these people are like, oh, I love this kid and things like that. So it's almost like it'd be amazing, since I already have a little bit of it, and then if I could learn more on really how to like dial it down and nail it, I feel like I would be in a pretty good spot.
For sure. Well, what we'll do with, if this makes sense to you, we're on 5 o'clock Eastern Wednesday next week. Mark it down, book your calendar, show up. We'll play with creating resumes, using AI to do all kinds of groovy stuff. I know we focused enormously on mind types, but that's how this mastermind rolls. Sometimes we go this way, sometimes we go that way. Tonight, it was about the personal connection with Wendy, Araceli, and Peyton. Really, really important. Thank you all for participating. Again, we're on next week, Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 17th, Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Peyton, if you can make it back, let me know ahead of time so I'm prepared. And we'll jump into taking what Peyton has talked about and what we've talked about and using AI to support this, using all the authenticity we've been talking about and using AI to bring it into the best possible resume, the best possible search, the best ways to find where the opportunities are, etc. We'll do that next week. Hubert, I know you probably have.
Yes.
We gotta hear something, Hubert.
Yeah,
Come
no.
on,
We're
man.
gonna we're always gonna have something, and now we're gonna bookend it because we started talking about whiskey and everything. But here's a joke for you guys. All right, I gotta warm myself up for this. All right, originally, Peyton, what kind of whiskey does a bunny drink?
Does a bunny drink?
Yes. What kind of whiskey does a bunny drink? Come on, guys.
Come on, Peyton. Get.
Hopscotch.
There it is. There it is.
Oh my God, forget about it. Okay, love you, everybody. See you next
Thank you guys so much.
All right, thanks,
All right,
man.
man. Wednesday,
everyone.
5 o'clock Eastern. Have a great night. Bye, guys.